engaged.
Is there any limitation on the size of contracts or acquisitions that you can do with this OTA?
Well, there's no statutory limit on the size of an OT. Within the Air Force, our Service Acquisition Executive, Dr. Bill LaPlante, who's our Assistant Secretary for Acquisitions, has the ability to approve an OT award up to $100 million, beyond which it has to go to the Secretary of Defense for approval. So, there's no threshold limit for an OT generally, but within the Air Force we have that threshold. But again, that's a pretty large threshold to work with.
But there's no statutory limitation. You could do fairly large programs with an OT.
One of our goals is to look to see how feasible is that. And it has been attempted before, and there have been, hiccups. Obviously, it's a very flexible authority that's rarely used. So understanding not just, hey, here's an authority, let's go use it. It's more, how do you use this appropriately? How do you actually meet the intent of the law while you're executing? And that's really what we're focused on.
So I imagine, like with anything, you'll start small, do a few pilot cases, see how well it works, and then, if it works really well, end up growing it.
That's exactly the idea. And so at our industry event on January 20th, we're going to talk about those first efforts to actually demonstrate how you execute an acquisition process in this manner. If it works, our hope is that we will build rapidly from there.
Is there any limitation on, at least from the Air Force's perspective, on some of the acquisition activities that might be included under this? For example, we're talking about ISR information systems.
Well, so we'll be announcing that down the road. What I would say is that the PlugFest Plus structure is most appropriate for systems that have an open architecture, A, and B, where you would actually benefit from acquiring very quickly. So you're looking at technologies where the global commercial technologies are evolving at a pace that's much faster than our current ability to acquire. So looking at information systems is a good example. Information systems are evolving on a month-by-month basis.
Exactly.
And simply not having an acquisition process that can meet that pace is a barrier that this will eliminate.
Will there be any difficulty then in bringing those kinds of capabilities into operational status within the Air Force?
Well, certainly. We can. There are obviously multiple barriers to fielding innovative products, not just in the Air Force, but anywhere in the government and probably in industry as well. So, yes, there are certification accreditation issues for information systems that we'll have to work through. But that said, our hope is that because we're creating a brand new acquisition strategy, we can bring into the fold those constituencies that are responsible for those types of certifications. So we might not be able to eliminate every barrier on our own just through this one effort, but at least we can engage the right people to understand, hey, there is a new way of doing business. And frankly, we can get to the point over time, assuming this is successful, where we build a community of vendors that understand our requirements and can actually build to those requirements. So it'll ease the process of getting certified. And I should say also we've been in very close conversation with our test and evaluation community to make sure that they're aware of what we're doing and that as we identify specific programs, they can match requirements for those specific programs to the events themselves.
So what are your overall objectives and goals for this bending the cost curve PlugFest Plus, getting it started and kicked off on January 20th and then going on through the rest of the year and beyond?
Yeah, well, our goal in the short term, obviously with the industry event, is to announce to the community industry what we're doing, what the intent is, but also gather feedback. With the bending the cost curve, because it's all very industry focused on collaborations and communication, we have a pretty clear idea of how we want this process to run, but we don't presume that we know everything. And so the idea is to convey out to industry, get feedback so that we can refine the process. But at the same time, yes, we will be talking about and announcing an actual live acquisition that we will do around this concept later in the year. And so folks will not just understand and participate in the development of the process, but they will also have the opportunity to go through and actually participate in the acquisition. And I think ultimately, like I said, would like to get to the point where we do these events several times a year around different programs, different requirements, so the vendors have multiple opportunities to participate.
So that's pretty exciting for vendors to be invited to come to an event like this, and then eventually to have the possibility of walking away with business.
Yeah, that's the idea. And again, it's not to take anything away from the PlugFest events as they in their current form, because they are very collaborative, and it certainly conveys to the government emerging technologies and things that we should be aware of. But we wanted to again, be able to look and see and say, yeah, that's the right one, and not be bound by the normal barriers that keep us from moving quickly.
So we've talked a little bit about normal acquisition processes. How do you see PlugFest Plus transitioning into maybe the mainstream of Air Force acquisition?
Well, if it works, it's certainly applicable to any system with an open architecture, right? So we might start with one or a small subset of projects to work with, but the reality is that there's a potential to start building entire systems off of this concept. Once the architecture is defined and you know what capabilities you need within that architecture, there's very little barrier to figuring out how you can establish this a whole system. Now, we're very early in the process, so I wish I could say that we have every answer for how it's all going to work, but I think that's part of doing the demo, is to understand, where are the kinks, what are the subtleties, and then we can start refining and figuring out where those first hit low-hanging fruit opportunities that we can go after, and ultimately, get to the point where we're actually creating functional, fully opt Air Force systems in the field.
Well, this is all pretty exciting. Anytime that a DoD organization like the Air Force can come up with a new way of acquiring things that's faster and is more responsive, then I think the warfighter benefits, and I think industry benefits. So we're looking forward to what we see on January 20th, and I'll ask you viewers to go to the website www.afei.org and check it out. I think it's going to be a very interesting learning experience. Dr. Gorguinpour, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate AFEI's support.
Well, we're happy to do so.